Nordstrom's Automotive Incorporated and may not be used without our permission. Copyright Nordstrom's Automotive, Inc. Now, let's go under the hood with the Nordstrom's Motor Medics.
Welcome to the Under the Hood Show. We are glad to have you with us. Russ Evans is here to answer your automotive questions.
Hey, thanks everybody for joining us under the hood.
Shannon Nordstrom is here to do the same.
Welcome, hoodies. Thanks for tuning in so we can help you tune up.
I'm Chris Carter here to answer your calls at 866-594-4150. 866-594-4150. What's caught your attention in the automotive world?
Well, we got out of that deep freeze we were in last week, and we're now back to a little warmer temp. For us, it warmed up. What did it warm? We were 34 below. So we jumped from there to...
We warmed up 70 degrees.
Yeah,
in 1 week,
in the 40s.
We went 79 degrees officially from our low on one day to 1 week later, the high.
And I think our friends in the South made a similar recovery, but maybe not quite as dramatic. But they're happy to see the temperatures go above freezing and snow starting to melt away. And
well above now. But we went from all those cars that were super cold that people put a lot of stress on by trying to start them up when they were cold and move them.
Right.
You can hear when a car has been sitting a couple days and we're down, just even say 10 below for 24 hours, that car, when it fires up, the power steering pump is just screaming. The transmission pump is screaming. Those things are really under a lot of stress. Oh, yeah. Trying to move all that fluid, that brake stuff. So we had just a load of calls, people needing transmissions replaced, engines replaced. We had several cars with the coolant that froze up. Coolant was good to, 5 below zero. And when it gets to a certain, now if you're at 10 below and your coolant is truly good to 5 below, it's probably just going to turn to a little bit of slush.
Okay.
But you hit a certain point. It's just like our friends in Florida that say the orange crop can take a 30-degree temperature for 15 minutes.
Right.
But if it stays that way for 3 hours, we're going to have some damage, and we're going to have a kill off of leaves and fruit and all that stuff. Same way with cars. You get to a certain point, and we had one come in. We had an Infinity come in, and the coolant froze, broke the radiator.
Oh.
And he was driving.
Is that all it broke?
Well, when the radiator broke, it mixed the transmission fluid in the engine, so it filled up the transmission. The engine coolant disappeared and burned up the motor. So we put the engine in it.
Wow.
We put a radiator in it, and we flushed the trans. And the transmission appears to be working now, but there's nothing you can. How do you know? We didn't know what had happened to it because, of course, it was thawed out. It reached zero outside, so there was really no slush left in it, but it had already frozen. So we checked and said, okay, it's low on coolant. We can smell the antifreeze coming out of the tailpipe. Head gaskets went out, right? I don't know. I'm just glad we were back. Weather, automotive news, we were back into warm temperatures again.
866-594-4150. Let's go to Indiana and talk to Dwayne. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Dwayne, what can we do for you?
Good morning, gentlemen. I've got a 2006 Honda Ridgeline. I'm the original owner. The odometer is about 277,000 miles. Runs like a top. I have a steering question for you guys this morning. It was time to rebuild the front end and lower control arms, ball joints, Timken wheel bearings, put it all back together. Took it to the shop to have, I wanted a road force balance of the wheels and tires, and I'm running Michelin tires on the truck. Had it aligned. But my question for you guys to help me figure out why is after all that, going down the interstate highway at interstate speeds, I still have a drift to the driver's side when I take my hand off the steering wheel. What would be causing that, guys?
It's not aligned right. If your tires are brand new, you've had the balancing done,
they're okay.
Oh, lost you there. What did you say?
No, the tires got about. No, the tires aren't new. They got about 40,000 miles on it. And but they're in great shape. Okay, so it's drifting because the alignment's not spot on yet.
Well, no, now that I'm on track with the tires, you probably already said that at the beginning. But so the tires, you could have two things. You could either have Some people call it radial pull. Other people call it other things. I call it radial pull. If the tread, the way the belts are and everything are aligned a certain way because they're just worn that way, it can drift to one side or the other.
Right.
So if it had brand new tires on it, I would say that it's an alignment issue. But since it has older tires on it, what we would do to test this is we would cross rotate those front tires, put the right on the left and the left on the right, and drive it again. And if it pulls the other direction, or if it straightens it out, it's a tire issue. If nothing changes, if it's 100% zero change, it's an alignment issue. Does that make sense?
Okay. Well, that's easy problem solved.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. I just got to swap the front too. Yeah.
Give it a shot, see what it does. But it sounds like you've done all the right things to make this work. So I think this will be a quick check for you.
Dwayne, thanks very much for the call. 866-594-4150. That's the number to reach us. We're going to take a quick break. We'd love to hear from you. 866-594-4150. And now they're adding a new service, Deals to Your Door. Nordstrom's.
Oh, 7.9.
Get your planner out right now and schedule your next radio appointment with the Motor Medics.
Welcome back to the Under the Hood Show, 866-594-4150. That's the phone number to reach us. Let's go to Mississippi and talk to Terrell. Terrell, you're on the Under the Hood Show. What can we do for you?
Yeah, I got a 04 Kia Rio, and I'm having bogging issues. It backfires through the front body, but when it goes in the closed room, it's still got a little hesitation to it, but it's still, and it's running real lean. In the long term, it's negative 18. Short term, negative 2.3. What you guys think?
So your long term is showing negative 18?
Right.
Okay, so it's taking away 18% of the fuel at negative 18. So
Russ, can you explain for the hoodies what he's
Bogging.
talking about?
Yeah, so the engine's bogging out when you're driving and you're getting a negative 18, which means it's running. If it was a positive, it would mean it was adding a whole bunch of fuel to it to try to make up for a lean condition, and that could cause that stall. If it's a negative, too much fuel could also cause that, but typically that's not enough negative to bog it out. I've
Really?
seen it. Yeah, I've
That
seen it.
seems like a lot, minus 18.
Well,
Depends on what you started at.
Yeah, I have no idea what it means, but it sounds like a lot.
Are we smelling fuel out the tailpipe, and is there a cloud of bluish black smoke from fuel coming out the tailpipe? That would tell me that it's super, super rich. I am wondering if there's not an issue on cars with a mass airflow sensor. I'd be leaning towards looking at that. On cars with a MAP sensor, manifold air pressure sensor, I'd be leaning towards looking at that. I don't think those oxygen sensors are reading. They're not picking up. They're missing a component. Either they're missing a throttle position sensor, or they're missing a mass airflow sensor or MAP sensor or something. So they're giving you a false reading, because it actually could be running lean, and that's why it's bogging out. But it's trying to it's taking away that fuel, but it's already lean. So if it's got a problem with an air flow in sensor, it could be reading that. This could be tricky to figure out.
Oh, that's no good.
But give me on the like I said, mass airflow. I thought airflow was just an issue with that. It would go away on the mass airflow.
Yeah. Did you
So
look?
you had a PO 101, but you already said it hadn't came back. I said if it's in an open loop, it's not reading the sensor.
No, it shouldn't be if it's stuck in open loop. And I'm wondering if it's it's either got an electronic problem or something physical, like a leak between the mass airflow sensor and the engine on the intake tube or something like that. I would check real close for those as well.
Terrell, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. 866-594-4150. 50. You said it can be tricky. What's the tricky? You just got to.
So it's in open loop. First, he's got to find out why is it not going into closed loop. Do we have a sensor that has failed causing that, or is the computer faulty? Is it a bad computer?
An open loop is what it's in typically when you start the vehicle, and it's just using some very basic
stuff, throttle position sensor and things like that.
To
it's
get
not
running and
yeah. It's here's what I need to get started, and then once I get going and I get certain parameters, then I'm supposed to go into closed loop where I'm sampling a lot more things.
Terrell, thanks very much for the call. 866-594-4150. Let's talk to Elias. You're on the Under the Hood show. What can we do for you, Elias?
Hi, I have a 94 Chevy Silverado, and I purchased that truck like a few months ago, but I haven't driven it very much, but I noticed that when I started in the morning, like the RPM will be like jumping up and down, like from between 800 and 1,000 RPM, and that needle is just bouncing up and down. So I was wondering if you guys had any idea what could cause that, the RPM to bounce like that.
Does it do it in all temperatures?
It only do it when it's cold, like the first time in the morning. Like if the truck is warmed up and I start it back on, it doesn't do it. Only when it's warming up.
I just had that problem with a 94. We put a brand new engine in for a guy, and it's doing it when it's really cold. The colder, the worse it is. And it turned out that it's got a faulty coolant temperature sensor. It was actually reading colder than it was. So when the outside temperature was 20 degrees, this thing said it was 0. So it was giving it too much fuel. It's like a choke built in electronically, and it was just pouring fuel in there. So it was when it was cold. But after it warmed up, just 5-6 minutes, it smoothed right out. And you could smell the fuel coming out the exhaust. It was running really rich. To diagnose that, right. I plugged a scanner into it. I turned the switch on. And when I turned that switch on, I was able to look and compare the temperatures. I looked at the intake air temperature sensor, and I said, oh, look, that's 20 degrees, and this thing's been sitting outside. 20 degrees. Look at the coolant temp sensor. We're at 0. That can't be right. I know it was cold yesterday, but it can't be right. So when I started it fairly quickly, that number jumped. So that's one of the possibilities of what's going on with that thing.
All right. And another thing I noticed, because I was just, checking around like for vacuum leaks or something like that. And I noticed that the distributor, it was kind of loose. Like the whole base will move, like the whatever that is that you tied it down to lock it in place, it was loose. So I just tightened it the way it was. Like I didn't move it. I just tightened it down.
You're gonna want to set it. It's at 0 is where the timing goes on those. So under the passenger side dash, underneath the glove box, but even further down underneath, there's going to be a brown and white wire that plugs together with a little black connector. When the motor's warmed up, fully warmed up after about 10, 15 minutes, unplug that connector. The check engine light's going to come on. The timing's going to go to base timing, which should be 0. Use a timing light, check on the front of the engine on cylinder number 1 and watch that. And if it's at 12 degrees above or it's below, it's going to run horrible like that. So you want to turn the distributor until you get it right at 0, tighten it down and verify it's at 0, then plug that wire back together, shut the key off and back on. All these old cars have to go into base timing some ways, and either if you have a vacuum distributor, you unplug it. But these, they hide that little brown and white wire way up under the dash. The older ones, they hid under the hood under a little plastic cover on the right side.
All right. So you think either one of those things could be causing the RPM to bounce like that, to
definitely
jump up and down?
Yeah, and the third thing that could cause it is just a bad distributor. That's common on these. The distributors start to wear out. The dwell gets off because the magnets in the distributor get weak. They can't pull it down the way it's supposed to be. So we replace that whole distributor as an assembly. The whole assembly's less than $100. Comes with a cap, rotor, distributor, everything.
All new bushings inside of it, and everything is just going to be nice and tight and smooth. And that's a good fix for a lot of these problems on those older V8s like that.
Yep. We pick them up.
Is it really hard to? You think it's really hard to change to replace that distributor, or do you think it's an
It
easy
really
thing to do?
It really isn't. As long as you do not turn the engine at all while you take this out, leave it right where it's at, mark the distributor exactly where the rotor is pointing when you take it out, and mark the base of the distributor so you know which direction it's pointing down there as well. Take it out, put the new one in the same spot. Just one comes out, it's going to turn as it comes out, so it's going to be kind of like screws as it comes out.
Because there's spiraled gears on the
Yeah,
bottom
yeah,
of
it
it.
rotates.
Right.
Right,
So then
rotates a little bit. Yeah.
get it in that exact spot. Shouldn't be a problem to get it back in the exact spot. Then tighten it up, reset your timing. You should be good to go. In our area, we head over to our Sturtevant's Auto Parts store. They'll have that on the shelf. They'll probably have 24 of them in their warehouse on the shelf. So it's a very common, very easy to access part. Throw it in, less than $100 if you do it yourself, and you're good to go.
Elias, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. Russ, I'm going to talk to Shannon for a second. You can go back to listening to Curtis Blow or whatever you were listening to when we came in. When he says,
Nucleus.
I'm
It was
not a
nucleus.
car guy, Shannon.
All right.
So when Russ says, reach down there's a brown and white wire, to me, that sounds like crazy talk.
You're
I mean,
thinking it'd be like diffusing a bomb and there'd be multiple wires down there, and there's no
Something.
way you're going to get the right one?
it makes him sound very different than I think of a person.
I think that Elias was tracking with him, though.
I think so,
I
yeah.
think Elias was going to be able to go in there and he'll find that brown and white wire and he'll diffuse that bomb.
And when he said brown and white wire, did that make perfect sense to you that
Yeah,
would be the
well,
wire?
I didn't know it was brown and white
Okay.
for a second.
That's I think.
But I've definitely heard him talk and Jake talk about setting the base timing and how you got to unplug it. We've never actually been there when they've done it,
Right.
But I know exactly what they're talking about.
Okay, Russ, you can come back now.
Hey, here I am.
I have no doubt that he could listen to two things at once and get them both right too, because that right there is pretty great. 866-594-4150. Let's talk to Randall in Montana. Randall, you're on the Under the Hood Show. What can we do for you? Okay, I don't have Randall there. Hold on. I know it. Oh, we just lost Randall. 866-594-4150. This caught my attention. I printed it out this morning. What do you think? This is January to December now. So 2020 we're talking about. The average new vehicle price. Do you have any idea what the average new vehicle price is?
Just overall for all of them?
Mhm. It went up 6% in 2020, which was a huge, huge jump.
Probably a lot more small cars sold than the big ones. I would say 36,400.
36,400 is Russ's guess. Shannon?
The price is right.
42,380.
Took a big swing there.
Yes, I did.
The average price for a new vehicle in 2020 was $40,578. That is a record for new car price, average price. And that is a jump of 6% that is not even close to the jump that the used market took. The average used vehicle surged nearly 14%, about 10 times the rate of inflation. The average used vehicle now is over $23,000.
And I will tell you from my experience that the salvage vehicle market for late model wrecked salvage vehicles has jumped at the same.
I bet, yeah.
It's crazy.
And they just said with the pandemic, with all of the manufacturing being slowed down, that also there were a lot of people who, when they stayed home or they stopped doing stuff, had more disposable income, drove new car sales through the roof, and they didn't even have the inventory to cover it, and that made the used vehicle market go up, but it is the highest jump ever.
Well, let's see. We've painted the living room. We've re-shingled the house. We can't get deck wood, so we're not going to build a deck. Let's go buy a car.
Let's talk to Randall in Montana. Randall, you're on the Under the Hood Show. What can we do for you?
Well, I've got an '09 Mustang GT, and it runs perfect, 135,000 miles on it. It runs perfect until I get low on fuel. Then it starts jerking and if I push down on the accelerator, it just about dies on me. And when I release it, it kind of catches, and then it'll limp me into a gas station. Once I get there, I fill it up, put in a can of heat, and it runs good. So what I've been doing is not letting it get below half tank. My question is, do you think that's the fuel pump?
I think it's the sending unit, the tree and the tank. I think your sending unit's off. It's actually out of fuel. If you're filling it up to the top when you put it, how many gallons are you putting in when you fill it? You know?
Well, it just depends. I put the top. It's anywhere from 4 to 10 gallons.
All right. You'll want to check and make sure that the tank doesn't have a big dent or something in it, but it sounds to me like your sending unit is not giving you the accurate reading, because that's exactly how it should feel when it's running out of fuel. So I think it's running out of fuel because you have a problem. Either the tank's dented or you've got a bend in it.
And you can check that with a meter? How do you check that?
Got to pull it out and physically inspect it.
We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you. The phone number to reach us, 866-594-4150.
Get your planner out right now and schedule your next radio appointment with the Motor Medics.
Welcome back to the Under the Hood Show. We're glad to have you with us. Russ and Shannon are here to answer your automotive questions. I'm Chris Carter, here to answer your calls at 866-594-4150. And don't forget, if you like us on Facebook and join the Hoodie Fan Club at underthehoodshow.com, you could win a hoodie.
Like Bill Leak from Show Low, Arizona. Show Low.
Congratulations.
It's Show Low down in Arizona.
I like that. Bet it's warmer than it is here.
Oh, you bet it's warmer. I bet it was warmer last week too, when the rest of the country was. They did get some pretty cold weather down there, but not like we did here. But not as much as Texas. But it was cold. If you want to be a mechanic, pick a UTI, Universal Technical Institute facility in a warm area.
Yeah.
Unless you're a cold person, but pick that.
Cold in personality or just cold in how you like to feel?
Well, maybe you like cold weather. Maybe you want to go, north when it's cold. But I prefer south. I'm going to pick the Orlando one more than likely because
I bet you're more versatile if you go to one of the northern campuses, because you have to deal with cold weather too. If you go to the down in Orlando or down in Florida, and then you come back, you might not get all the, unless they have. I wonder if they have refrigerator and freezer garages that they could put cars in.
I'll ask my guys over there.
They might.
Yeah.
They very well could. Maybe they'd go over to Disney at the test track and test it out. But
Put them in there.
Well, where is it?
In
The
the
Mall of
freezer?
America. You go to the Canada Goose store and they have a minus 30 below room they can take you into to try the code on.
That's weird.
that's too too cold. I've had that, and that's plenty cold.
What a
But
sales
They
tactic.
do.
though.
People are walking
Yeah.
in there and they're trying their code on. I'm like,
UTI.edu, Universal Technical Institute. If you're thinking about an automotive career, they're going to fix you up.
866-594-4150. Let's talk to Tony in Georgia. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Tony, what can we do for you?
Hey, I just wanted to thank you guys first off. This was last year. I had my Ram truck ripped half apart, and Russ had mentioned that maybe I should move the injectors over to the other side, trying to find a lean code. And sure enough, the code did move when I moved the injectors. So I put a few new injectors in there, and no check engine light for 6 or 8 months now. So that's awesome. Then my question for today, though, is my wife has a 2007 Chevy Tahoe, new style. It has 187,000 miles on it. When we bought it, it had a large EVAP leak code, and I replaced the charcoal canister, also the solenoid up on the engine, and the conversion kit with that extra little piece of tube in the vent has been installed, around the filler neck conversion deal, even when we bought the car. And I also got a GM AC Delco gas cap, and now we still have a small leak EVAP code. And so I was wondering what the next step would be to try to get at that. And also, I do have a little smoke machine that I bought, when working on my Ram truck last year. So maybe I could use that. So what are your thoughts?
I was anticipating I was going to say smoke, and then you were going to say, well, I don't have one of those, but you beat me to it.
or else it's not legal in our state or something like that.
I was thinking I have a smoke machine in my garage too, but I also have a disco ball hardwired in. So when I hit the switch, the lights come on and the smoke machine starts.
Smoke comes out automatically?
The way I have
every
it set
time
up,
you come in the garage?
No. If I have a dedicated switch for the,
or is it every morning when you leave the garage?
dance garage. I have a.
The tunes play. The smoke rolls. Yeah. The Prius rolls out of the garage.
I stand there as the garage door goes up. I'm standing there waiting for people to notice. You know,
that'd be way cooler with the Solstice.
It is 3 a.m. though, so it's not There's not a lot of
You need
fans.
You need to shoot flames out of that garage is what you need to do.
I had a smoke machine in my house that I brought home from the nightclub that I worked at
Yeah.
a long time ago. I turned it on in the house because it wasn't working. Turned it on, filled the entire house with smoke. My wife was really mad.
I bet.
I'm going to die in here. It's like you couldn't see anything. You couldn't see a foot in front of your face. It was just solid. Same thing that works with the car. You put this smoke into the EVAP system like that, and it fills up that system, and it'd just be like a disco in there. If you see the smoke coming out,
Where do
need
you
to
set
close
it?
the
Do you
door.
put it on the floor?
No,
Is that okay?
no.
you
This
gotta
is a
outside. Okay.
this is
You
a
got to put it
can.
into the pipes.
It's full of mineral oil. We buy baby oil. That we buy down at Dollar General. Pour it in this can, plug it in. It heats it up, starts smoking. You hook compressed air to it. It's dialed down less than 2 pounds. Goes into the evaporative emission system. That's that little green cap you see under the hood that looks like you're like, hey, look, the little green tire cap under the hood, and it says do not apply more than a certain PSI to it. Fill it in there. Let that thing fill up, and then you look for leaks. If you see any external leaks, they got to be fixed. If there's no external leaks, then you get to go to the back, and with that vent valve shut for the canister, you pull it off the canister. You pull the line off the canister, and if it's leaking through there, it means our vent valve's leaking. We can't have a leaky vent valve because if the canister vent valve leaks, that means that we've got it's going to say small leak. It's going to determine there's a leak in there.
Yeah.
We don't want that to leak. Also, the purge valve on the engine, when that's closed, we want to take the vacuum line off there and unhook it, see if we have any smoke rolling by that. That's how you test those things. YouTube's got some great videos on that, and we're going to put some up too.
And so when the car is off, the vent in the back of the car and the solenoid up front on the engine, would those both be closed automatically, or would they be open, or what?
After a period of time, because you have to have the vent valve open in the back to fill it with fuel. So it's going to be open.
Gotcha.
If you were to pull your car into a gas station, take the keys out of it, and let it sit there for an hour, and then come back and try to fill the car with fuel, it's going to clunk clunk and shut off because there's no vent back there to the tank. It's not going to vent properly. So they've got that set up to do that. Also,
So if I fill the system with smoke, is the smoke just going to come out of the vent in the back, and is that normal? You know what I mean, or how's that going to work? Or the front, or what?
if the system is in the vent mode, so it's supposed to be venting through that canister in the back, it should pass by the valve. And if you have a scanner where you can command it open and close, that's the best way, because you want to close the valve or just unplug the connector from it. If you unplug the connector and the valve is shut off and smoke bypasses it, goes straight through the valve, even with the connector unhooked, that valve's bad. It should only be flowing smoke when the valve is activated and turned on.
Does that help you out there, Tony?
Yes, thank you guys so much. Y'all are awesome.
I hope this works, or else it's going to be, what have you done for me lately?
Yeah, he's going to call us back next year and say it didn't work, that second
You guys-
one.
yeah, I don't sense he's that kind of guy. But
You're 1 for 2, guys. Come on.
hey, if we're a baseball player, we get a raise.
That's right. That'd be huge. I just had $1 million idea.
Go for it.
We're in the new Nordstrom's 2.0 studio here at the Under the Hood show. Do we still give away our $1 million ideas?
No, but we should get a smoke machine.
I think we should. Let's invent an adapter that goes on a Schrader valve to a vape pen. So everyone has you can just go buy you don't have to buy a smoke machine. You can just start vaping, and then you could check the vape, the smoke.
I don't think so, Tim.
Is that not all right? Well,
I don't know about that.
someone's going to do it now. 866-594-4150. Let's go to Rhode Island and talk to Malcolm. You're on the Under the Hood show. What can we do for you, Malcolm?
I got a couple of questions. On my Ford Focus, I'm somebody, I like to get a lot of miles out of a car. And do you think that if I were to put magnets on the drain plug on the motor, if that would cause the oil to last longer and be in better condition?
There's many vehicles that from the factory in a lot of the drain plugs already have a magnet on them. And it's meant to catch excessive flashings or pieces that might break off of a gear or a casting. If there was something left in the system, it lets some of that random particles get caught on that drain plug. So your idea is not something that has not been done already right from the factory with Mini, if that's what you're talking about.
Yes, it is.
I don't think it's going to hurt. I also don't think it's going to do a lot. And the reason I say that is not from dozens of years of technical testing, but because the manufacturers aren't doing it on that system because it's a filtered system. To see it now, my Model T does not have an oil filter. It's a 1925, so it's over 100 years old. Well, it's almost 100 years old, basically. The system is over 100 years old that they've designed, just a splash oil system. They've got a magnet on the drain plug.
Oh.
But there's no filter. When the filters came around, the magnet went away. So my guess is that as this stuff's flowing around, there's that. But,
my Volkswagen had a very strong magnet on it.
Yeah, it's
no
oil filter.
It also had, the filter was like a spaghetti colander.
Yeah, it's not really it's not a pressurized oil
Right.
system, is what I should say, with a filter, because a lot of the non-pressurized do have a filter. I would say if you want, put it on there. If you got one that you could put on there, that kind of plug, look at it after a year and see if you've got any metal on it. If you do, that's a good reason to have one on.
It's more common on drivetrain components, manual transmissions, automatic transmissions. You'll see a magnet up in there. I mean, it's more common in those sort of items nowadays than the pressurized oil systems of an engine.
If I had a 2020 model and I put a magnet there and it collected metal, I'd probably be in big trouble already, wouldn't I?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's
if there's a bunch.
I'd be concerned.
Yeah,
there's going to be some that's going to be collected by the filter, just normal driving, normal break-in of parts, things like that. But you don't want to. I would look at it and tell you if I'd be alarmed or not.
Uh-huh.
I'd say, "Oh, no, it's no big deal, Chris. But it's metal. That's all right."
2 ball bearings and 47 cents. How's that? Does that help you out there, Malcolm?
Yes, it does.
Thanks very much for the call. 866-594-4150. Let's take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you. The phone number, again, 866-594-4150. You're listening to the Under the Hood Show.
Be sure to visit our website for news, contests, and previous shows at underthehoodshow.com. Welcome back, everybody. It's time to get back under the hood with the Motor Medics.
Welcome back to the Under the Hood Show. The phone number to reach us, 866-594-4150. What else has caught your attention in the automotive world?
Recall roulette.
Oh, okay.
Got another one. What did I do with it?
You can actually now, if you were on our YouTube channel, you could see your stack of recalls that you bring in.
Well, I don't have the stack of recalls.
I know.
That's the problem.
That's what's going on there?
I've got an actual pamphlet recall.
Okay.
That is, we get, on vehicles that we get at our auto dismantling facility, a lot of times that are not transferred, or have been transferred to our name, out of the owner's name, because that's eventually what happens. We get a lot of the recalls.
Mm-hmm.
And this particular one says, if you bought or leased a 2011 to 2016 model year Hyundai Elantra GT, or Elantra Coupe equipped with a 1.8-liter new engine, you may benefit from a class action settlement. So this is already a settled class. And what it comes down to say that if you're in the non-cold weather states, I'd like to know where that boundary is at. You're
odd timing for
exactly, because it could be debated. You have an extension of your factory warranty of 10 years, 120,000 miles. An extension is how I'm reading this.
Mm-hmm.
If you are in the cold weather states, you get 8 years, 80,000 miles.
Okay.
Because they're admitting that cold weather's hard on stuff, apparently. And you might break things. I find that interesting. That must have been part of the class negotiations, I would guess.
So you've got to tell them this too.
Yeah, well, just a way to minimize.
Yeah, the other way.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, yeah, they went, well, we're not going to do it here.
It says, this is interesting, those who have not registered their class vehicle in a cold weather state can submit a claim for one of the warranty extensions described immediately above, whether you register as a cold weather state or the vehicle was previously registered in a cold weather state. Now, why would I want them to know that if I'm going to get less warranty on my recall?
Right.
And the settlement also provides cash reimbursements for qualifying past out-of-pocket repairs and repair-related expenses such as rental cars and towing. So we may or may not have customers that Russ and his team up at our service center have put a motor in that may get this in the mail that could be calling and say, hey, do you have my receipts?
Mm-hmm.
I have my information. I need to send this in. I'm going to get some money back.
Got one already.
Did you?
Really?
Yep. Got one already on that, on our buddy Dwayne's car, I believe it was.
Is there, so...
This is interesting because Hyundai and Kia also got a thing going with a 2.4 motor that's been going for a little while too.
Some of those things just really sit wrong with me. For instance, Chris, your old Windstar van, had a recall on the rear axle for them snapping in half and breaking, and they killed some people. But it wasn't good for you, Chris, because, well, it was for you because you were in a Minnesota state at the time. But if you lived in South,
for him that his axle
if you were in
never
South
broke.
Dakota, actually, yours was fine.
Yeah.
But you're following me here. It was. They said it's only covers the salt belt states. South Dakota wasn't considered in there
Okay.
because they don't have any salt, but they do in Minnesota, which is totally bogus. Have you seen the cars around here? Have you seen what the salt does? Different than Minnesota, but yeah, there were a lot of states that were not included just because they decided to say, we don't consider that. I'd like to know where they get this list that says this is a salt state, this is a non-salt state, because if you look at our cars, they rot.
In their summary page, like a credit card disclosure they've got here, if you look at that, it's something important here. It says, if you do nothing, get no reimbursement, period. If your class vehicle is registered in a cold weather state, you will automatically receive a warranty extension.
Okay.
If your class vehicle is registered in a warm weather state and you do nothing, you will not receive the benefits of the warranty extension.
Huh. Okay.
So they're really parsing out
They
that
really-
whole...
I suppose if you're talking that kind of money, you want to make sure you are covering all of your own bases.
Yeah, it says, please visit HyundaiPistonEngineSettlement.com. I don't think you want to have one of those URLs. HyundaiPistonEngineSettlement.com for a copy of this notice in Spanish. If you want to get another language, HyundaiPistonEngineSettlement.com, so you can check it out.
866-594-4150. That's the phone number to reach us. I did not like that recall on our van because it made me feel
Unsafe?
awkward. No, it made me feel conflicted. When I went in, they said, we checked and yours isn't the dangerous one. And I was kind of like, oh, shoot,
You kind of wanted to have the dangerous one?
Because there was unconfirmed rumors at the time that it was going to be what did we call it? We actually had a name, like a silent buyback program, there were rumors that if you had that axle, they would buy your car back from you.
And give you a new Expedition.
I think that's what I was imagining.
And a Mustang GT for your pain.
Exactly, because it was scary.
Yeah.
So the fact that my car wasn't dangerous, I was kind of like, oh.
Yeah, and if your axle's actually cracked and you caught it right in the nick of time, you got a convertible.
Exactly. That's
something like that.
It should be. That would be on the settlement.com. Let me ask you this. As a recycler, you deal with end-of-life vehicles, the vehicles that are at the end of their life.
Yes.
How does that work? Have there been settlements or class actions where you actually end up being the person who does it, or is because of what you do that ends with you? Do you know what I'm
Typically,
asking?
if the vehicle has been salvaged or has a salvage title, many times you're not eligible for a lot of these types of things. There are cases with some of the airbag recalls and such with Takata where they have came to the automotive recyclers and said, no, we want those items still. We don't want them getting out of the stream. As a matter of fact, that's being done very aggressively by most of the manufacturers with the Takata, so I shouldn't really use that example. They've been trying really hard. It's just we have a heck of a time identifying the vehicles because the manufacturers won't share the proper data, which is wrong. But we have we do get involved in that regard. But probably where we see it the most is we'll have a certain part type, and it's usually an engine or a transmission, that our demand goes through the roof. The entire industry, our industry, is out trying to buy these salvage vehicles because we can't get enough engines. 2.4 Hyundai Kia type engine is an example of that. Prices of those motors is going higher, higher, higher. You're having a hard time buying the salvage vehicles. And then all of a sudden there's a recall. And you're not sure which ones you should be trying to sell or not sell.
Sure.
Because they did this whole thing with a different color dipstick after the engine had been inspected or replaced. There was a red dipstick, a yellow dipstick, an orange dipstick, or something like that, if I remember right. Green, orange, and red, or something like that on the dipstick colors that they would change as you've been in different parts of the settlement. And so when we'd go to the salvage sales, which we can't go to anymore, we have to do it all by the internet, our buyer would actually be lifting the hoods to see what color dipstick it had.
Okay.
And some of those were part of the recall, and we didn't buy them because they're not supposed to be being sold. They're supposed to be something done with them.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a whole nother subject there that comes into play when it comes to recalls in the auto manufacturers. And we could use a lot more cooperation from them, working with our National Trade Association, the Automotive Recyclers Association, to give us the VIN level data that we need so that we could say, all right, you got this vehicle in your inventory, and we know, because they know, that it has this part in it. It has this door latch in it that has been recalled, and it could fly open, and Aunt Betty could fly out the door. You should not sell that door latch, and we should be part of helping you take that out. I didn't make it. I just received it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not my problem. I didn't make the door latch.
Because if you're at home and you own that car, they sure want to send you the notice to your house
Right.
that you own it. So now the auto recycler is the owner of that car.
We just need better data, though, to be able to identify that stuff.
866-594-4150. That's the number to reach us. Let's talk about that a little bit, the pandemic and your buying process. How it must be.
It was very much a gamble. When we got into March and April, in our part of the country, things didn't happen as quick.
Okay.
We didn't have the immediate fear of what was going on as this started in the West Coast and the East Coast started seeing the effects. I don't think our part of the country realized it right away. But what we did see is that the driven miles were going down. People weren't going to work. People weren't driving on vacation. People weren't going to school. The driven miles for our country went down incredibly. I've heard the number. I don't remember. I'm not going to try to quote it, but the number of miles driven, it affected a lifetime of vehicles.
Absolutely.
And maintenance histories and maintenance expenses that were needing to be done and not done. And so we took a gamble, and I told our staff that I said, you know what, you better start buying now because eventually the supply is going to dry up. And as much as our government wants to get involved with stuff, most businesses still run on supply and demand economics. And our supply of the raw materials we needed, late model salvage vehicles, was drying up. And so myself and other progressive auto recyclers around the country that don't deal in just the junkers, that's what people imagine is we just buy junkers off the street. Well, that's part of what we do, but it's a less than 10% part of what we do. And so what we're looking for is the later model cars we can get the good parts off of. And so we had to take a gamble and start buying that stuff up, not knowing what was going to happen with our selling market, watching the country slow to a halt. And we made the right choice to keep buying and buying aggressively because there was a point in time where the number of cars available at the auctions was very low. Everybody was trying to buy what they needed, and the prices, like I mentioned in an earlier part of the show, have went through the roof on salvage, just like used cars.
And I can say this, if you're new to the show and you haven't heard it before, if you had made the wrong decision, you would for sure say it too. So
I would.
The fact that you did it right,
it would have been painful.
That'll do it for hour one. Hour two's on the way of the Under the Hood Show.
Hey, it's me over here. If you're on Facebook right now, if you're on YouTube right now, we're going to be back, in about 4 or 5 minutes. So we didn't stop. We're not done. We'll be right back. So stick around.
Hey, have I got time to go to the bathroom, Russ?
Yeah.
All right.
I'm
All
going.
right, we'll be back.
You're listening to the Nordstrom's Under the Hood Show with the Motor Medics, Shannon Nordstrom and Russ the Super Tech Evans. Shannon is an ASE engine and parts specialist, and Russ is an ASE Master Certified Technician with extensive factory drivability training. Join the Motor Medics for fun and free automotive advice with real-world solutions to everyday automotive problems. The Under the Hood Show is heard weekly on this and other great radio stations across the U.S. Find out how you can participate in the show by visiting underthehoodshow.com.
With Russ Evans, this is Shannon Nordstrom, thanking you for tuning in to the Nordstrom's Under the Hood Show. Have a great day, and remember, PTLA.
The opinions heard on this program, based on the many years of experience of Russ and Shannon, are offered for entertainment value only and as a guide to your repair needs. No claim to repair or cause is given or implied. Always consult with your own certified technician and follow all safety procedures before attempting any repair. To be a part of the show, call 866-594-4150. Under the Hood is produced by Prairie House Productions. All content is the property of Nordstrom's Automotive Incorporated and may not be used without our permission. Copyright Nordstrom's Automotive, Inc. Now, let's go under the hood with the Nordstrom's Motor Medics.
Welcome to the Under the Hood Show. We are glad to have you with us. Russ Evans is here to answer your automotive questions.
Thanks for joining us under the hood, and I'm hearing voices.
Shannon Nordstrom is here to do the same.
Welcome, hoodies. Thanks for tuning in so I can help you tune up.
I'm Chris Carter here to answer your calls at 866-594-4150. We are here at the Nordstrom's 2.0 studio, and if you are watching the show, you can watch the show now on YouTube, and if you do, you can see some interesting things behind the scenes, like scooting in of chairs. I was just watching you on the video scooting in your chair. That was entertaining, and I know I've done the same.
Does that look too suggestive?
No, it just was funny to get you to have you doing it. Also, you can see the new studio here if you go check out our YouTube page, and there's some videos up on Facebook too. Thanks for joining us. 866-594-4150. What's caught your attention in the automotive world?
There's some weird signals going on right now.
We can't hear
you got to pull your mic close to. Yeah, there you go.
Now we can hear
Who
you.
moved my mic?
You must have, or you moved your head because you were off mic there.
Did you guys move my mic when I went to the bathroom?
No, we did
Who
not do
moved
anything.
my cheese?
Didn't
Somebody
do anything.
moved my mic.
Somebody moved the cheese. Where's my cheese?
866-594-4150.
Hey, what caught my eye? Ford is they are actively producing, and I know that many of us would just as soon be done with the masks as soon as it's necessary to be done with them. Is that
Yeah, that
right?
makes sense. Yeah, I think
I
think you covered it there too because
think
the
I
people
skipped
that
a word or two
Covered
though.
mask.
Yeah, covered it.
I get it.
But Ford is they've invented and made, and I've seen other ones like this because I actually, from our school functions too, we've been looking and figuring out what's best. But they've got a clear N95 respirator that they have taken to production, and
That
so
would be great.
A non-fogging clear N95 production, and they said just like I feel, it's hard for me to communicate because I must read lips way more than I ever imagined, for one thing. And that's what they're talking about. A lot of people that are hearing impaired, they have a big challenge with this right now.
My daughter has a hearing loss and she doesn't read lips. She just has a slight hearing loss, but she definitely needs to see your lips moving to get a good clear, so she can hear it clearly, if that makes sense. And it affects her a lot in school.
And so they have received patent pending approval for an N95 respirators that have a clear window to make facial expressions visible. Now, like I said, I've seen other clear masks that are out there. Companies are making them that are used in certain settings for teachers and nurses and different things. But this is apparently something unique that they've got the patent on this. And they are making regular masks also. And just recently, it had said it has plans to donate 120 million masks, up from its previous commitment of 100 million. The company didn't advertise nationally during the Super Bowl, but it ran commercials during the TV broadcast in 5 states to promote mask wearing as part of its Finish Strong campaign.
So 3 years from now, let's just say if this is about completely gone, we're just like, I don't know, where did it go? Why did it stop? Vaccine or not? Why did it go? Are we going to be able to go into like Home Depot or Menards or Walmart or wherever, and instead of buying masks when pre-pandemic, we were buying a box of 10 N95s for like $14. We're going to be able to go in there and buy them for $1 because they have millions of extra surplus around.
Good question. I'm
Are,
sure.
are we going to be able to buy toilet paper at 5 cents a roll because now they've caught up with the people who hoarded? We don't need to buy it anymore.
It'll be on the same sale rack where Chris finds a tire gauge.
It'll be in the tool rack. This is just my hunch, but I just have a hunch that the large manufacturing companies will find a way to still get us to pay full price for everything.
They're going to release a diarrhea epidemic.
866-594-4150. Let's talk to Larry. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Larry, what can we do for you?
Yeah, just a quick question. I got a 97 Ford F-150, and I can smell gas when I'm walking past it, and I've been looking under. I haven't found anything really gripping or anything, but it looks like maybe it's weeping a little bit out of the fuel tank. And I was just wondering if there's some kind of an anti-leak that you could put in something like that would maybe take care of it, or is it just a different tank?
I was just trying to keep in my mind if that 97 F-150 has a metal steel fuel tank, and I believe it does. And if it is leaking, it typically we see it in our northern belt. It gets in, the junk gets in around the gas tank straps, and it just starts corroding from the outside in, and then eventually it permeates a hole, and you'll get a seeping, weeping leak. And there's not much you can do about it. I mean, really, there's not any sealer that you can use. There's not, Russ. I mean, you just replace the tank.
If the tank's leaking, you have to replace the tank.
We got to confirm that
if the tank is leaking. But it could be the sending unit at the top. The O-ring could be leaking. Could be the filler neck leaking.
And it could be puddling over the sides from something like that too.
And the tiniest little bit will make you smell it, right?
It does not take much gas radiating out to make you think you've got a lot of gas coming out.
Does that help you out, Larry?
Yeah, it reeks pretty good every once in a while, so that's why I thought I'd check and see if there's
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Larry. What you wanted them to say was, go buy this, it's $4, and it will solve your problem.
It'd be a lot easier taking it out of there.
Yeah. But that's one where you research that one more, I think, when it's going to be that, because like the fuel pump, when the fuel pump is going and you have to drop the tank.
So we talked about K-Seal on the show enough that people recognize it. They're like, hey, K-Seal, I am getting, because it works great for sealing cooling system leaks. But because of that, I'm getting calls at the shop. Every couple of weeks, a call comes in. Hey, do you have anything that I could pour in my gas tank like that? How about my oil? Is there something that'll stop my oil from burning, like all the oil? Will it fix all my leaks? I'm like, no, it doesn't work that way. It's not the thing. Would it be cool if somebody would come up with a product like that someday that you just pour in and go, hey, my 400,000 mile engine doesn't use any oil anymore, not a drop.
Well, they made,
doesn't run anymore, but it doesn't use a drop.
60 to 100,000 F-150s every single month. In number one selling vehicle, truck. I mean, they sell a ton of those.
Got to break a few.
When the gas tanks or something like that is, let's stay on the path. This is a corrosion issue.
Sure.
Hard to find one of the same year in the same area that you live that may not have the similar problem starting. One of the things we've been able to do, and you could do it also, Cardash Part, one of our partners, is a place that recyclers from all over the United States put their inventory, and you can search it from wherever you live, search by zip code, search by region. Do your search from a southern state and see if you can find one that is in an area where they don't have the corrosion problems, and they probably throw them away.
So you could sort by distance, furthest to closest.
Yeah, now transportation can be an issue.
Yeah.
But you could find one in an area where they don't have this problem. And at that point, in those areas, those are just they crush them. Once they get the fuel out of them, they're done. But transportation and the cost could be a challenge there. But sometimes you got to move to a different area of the country to find what you need to replace a problem, even with a recycled original equipment part.
Larry, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. I was going to jump in there and say, if we could invent something like that for fuel or oil, that'd be $1 million idea. And then I realized, it would be probably multiples of millions an idea if we could just come up with that.
If it worked.
Yeah.
It'd be big.
We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you. 866-594-4150. You're listening to the Under the Hood Show.
Prepare to learn something. You're going under the hood.
Welcome back to the Under the Hood Show. The phone number to reach us, 866-594-4150. Let's talk to Luke. You're on the Under the Hood Show. What can we do for you, Luke?
Hey, I've got a 2007 Suzuki Forenza that just put a new head in it and redid all the timing, and there seems to be some rubbing sound. Ooh. I can't quite pinpoint it, and I pulled the timing cover back off, hooked everything else back up, and let it run a little bit with the timing cover off. Nothing's rubbing in the timing, and don't know where to go from there.
Chris, did you know Suzuki Forenza was a car?
I did.
Okay.
I used to own a Geo Metro, so I mildly paid attention to Suzukis throughout the years, because that was just a Suzuki with a different badge.
Could you name two other Suzuki models?
No, I don't think so. Our affiliate, our main affiliate, used to have a Suzuki. His personal car used to be a Suzuki. I don't think I could come up with another one.
They're hard. It's not one you think about all the time.
Sidekick.
That's going back.
I wasn't counting the Samurai and the Sidekick because we've talked about those so much.
I was thinking XC90 and
I was thinking of passenger sedans. Was the cars, not the
no, that's something else.
Credenza?
No, that's Toyota. All right, so you have
rubbing sound.
Can I ask first? What I think you may have said it. I just want to replay it.
Manual or auto?
Why did you do this? What happened?
Well, I bought the car from a friend of mine who was driving down the highway. The timing belt went, and he spent some rods. So he, instead of junking it out, he sold the car to me for $200. So I just figured $200, maybe 5, 6, and redoing the head on it, put new rods and everything in it, and hoping to come out with a steel, but now it's turning into a little more issue.
Got a manual or auto trans in it?
Automatic.
Okay, well that eliminates that. Ugh. Could have said manual and helped me out a little bit. So you pulled the cover off. With the cover off and running, you still hear this noise inside?
Yes.
Oh, that's bad. determine which end of the engine it's coming from, because if it's coming down by the transmission end, it's possible that you've got something going on with the starter rub. And I've seen a few of them with starters hanging up and they make kind of a rubbing sound on that end. Or the, I'm trying to think, there's the cover, you would hear it though if it was coming out.
Yeah,
of
that'd
that
be more of
cover.
it's not a metallic noise, is it?
No, nope.
Yeah.
And then on the timing belt side of the engine, is there the correct clearances and stuff behind the harmonic balance? Because you had this motor completely apart.
Yes, yep. I had the whole thing completely apart, and I've got a mechanic friend that he owns a shop and everything. He came over and kind of listened to it a little bit, and he says it doesn't sound like it's anything bad. The way it just sounds like something's rubbing, and gave me a few pointers to check different things.
I don't understand if your mechanic friend said, don't worry about it, why would you go any further to find out?
You still want to look a little bit, Chris.
This isn't like a tire rub on NASCAR where all of a sudden, this will burn off in a few laps and it'll go away.
His friend said it was fine.
Sometimes they do, but if it's a little tiny plastic shield and it rubs it and it stops making noise, but it doesn't rub a hole in it, you're not getting any moisture or oil, then that's probably fine, Chris. But if it's something major, this is what I'd say. As a mechanic, I'd say, I got to hear it. People ask me all the time, well, can I drive it in to have you look at it? I don't know. You got to make that choice yourself. If I tell you yes and you drive it in and blow it up, you're going to blame me. If I say no, you're going to say, well, I don't want to bring it in then because I can't get it over. How am I going to get it over there? And then you drive it across down to a shop anyways, and they're like, oh, it's nothing.
So this
when I hooked everything up to it, yeah, it was. But when I reassembled everything, I put different lube and all that in, let it run for about an hour. And it seemed like the rubbing, it slowly, it'd go away, then it'd come back. Then it'd go away, then it'd come back.
It's a plastic timing cover on that, right? Is that a plastic timing cover on there?
Yep. Yes, sir.
That'd be my first point of viewing. I would be checking out all those timing cover bolts to make sure there's not one that had a longer bolt or something in it and something ran in further than it should. I would be looking at, sometimes they have two-piece covers and they kind of interlock to make sure that one isn't tabbed in wrong and it's rubbing against the edge of the timing belt. There's only so many things that can make a rub. Then you get into your belt-driven accessories. Is there something from a wiring harness that isn't quite pulled away to the side and the sheath of the wiring harness is hitting on an accessory belt? I mean, that's the area if you're hearing a rub and can you hear it when it's idling, just like driving, that's the area I'd be looking in.
He keeps saying that, and I keep thinking about barbecue.
Making you hungry?
Yeah.
It's idling. Just step on the gas a little bit, and it speeds up with the motor.
That's good. I mean, that it does it when it's idling means you should be able to pinpoint it with someone.
It's got to be coming from that timing side. I just really think so. If you're saying it's a rub, the noises that would sound like a rub are going to come from the timing side of the engine, the accessory side of the engine. If it's going to be in the engine, it'd be metallic. You'd tell the difference. You'd feel it or hear it different. If it was like the spacer between the engine and the tranny, or it was misaligned or something like that. There's a big difference. It'd be great to put it on a hoist while it's running and be able to listen from the bottom side and see if you can pinpoint or see something different that you can't see from the top side.
Luke, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. So that's what you would do. I would ignore it because my friend said it was fine. This is also a good test of the friendship, too, because his friend, the mechanic, said, it sounds fine. So if it breaks, he's going to know if this guy's a good friend, because either the friend will go, oh, I feel terrible, I didn't think it was anything, or the guy goes, stuff happens. And he wasn't really caring about you, and he wasn't your real friend.
Or if you had done him a solid recently, and you knew that you really had done something for him, then you kind of know that he was a little more engaged because he was trying to really help you back.
Right, yeah.
But if you hadn't done anything for him lately,
he might just figure, it's fine to me.
Quit asking me questions. You've called me over here 10 times in the last week. Yeah.
Let's talk to Jim. Jim, you're on the Under the Hood show. What can we do for you?
Well, thanks, guys. I have a 2005 Chrysler Town & Country 3800 engine, the limited model, and I've been having a problem with when the engine, especially when the engine is warm, and I try to start it, it will start and stop immediately. I can start it again, and it will run a moment and stop again. And about the fourth try, it will finally start and run, and it'll run fine all the time from then on. We've replaced the fuel pump. By the way, it's got roughly 23,000 miles. We just recently replaced the fuel pump relay, and I think a crank relay of some sort, or crank sensor. And it worked fine after they put the sensor in until it worked for like 5 or 6 weeks, and now it's doing the same thing again.
But it's a warm no start issue, not a cold no start issue.
Occasionally when it's cold, it will do that, but hardly ever. It's when I drive somewhere and stop and it sits a few minutes and I go back out and it does that.
That really sounds, when you say you replace that sensor, that crankshaft position sensor, it fixed it for a while and now it's doing it again. What you're describing, if all you said was, hey, I'm calling you guys on the End of the Hood show. I have a van. When I drive it and then shut it off, it has to cool down before it restarts and only runs so long when it shuts off. My head is going to be going towards a crankshaft position sensor. And then you tell me you replaced one and it worked for a while. I'm going to pull that sensor back out and I'm going to physically inspect it and see if something's been rubbing on it or something causing it to damage it and fail. It could just be a failed part. Sometimes parts are bad out of the box. They just don't last. When they make them in the process, it can happen. But it sure sounds like that's what's going on. The only way to verify it for 100% would be is if you had a scanner plugged into it, you had a handheld scanner, you could watch it, you could crank it and see if you've lost RPM when it's not starting. And if you have, the next step is to go right to that sensor and we check it just with a plain old cheap voltmeter. We connect right to it and read it there. And if there's no signal there, then we know that sensor is bad for a fact. But they're not that hard to replace on that model. It might be one of those things where you need to pull it out and warranty it.
Okay. I wanted to, because when we put in the fuel pump first and the relay, and that didn't fix it. So when he put the sensor in, that seemed to have fixed it, like I said, but now it started again. So to me, that's where I thought it might be.
Has anybody been able to have this occur with their diagnostic equipment hooked to it yet?
I'm not sure about that.
Because that would be what Russ would want to have. If you knew this would happen frequently and it could be duplicated, that's where you tell the technician, hey, drive this thing 20 minutes, have your scanner. It's going to happen. And that's where they might say, you know what, we can make a deal. I'll drive it home from work. I'll bring the scanner with me. And then we can see, all right, here's what cut out. Here's what we lost. We lost crank signal. But that's if you don't do that, you're going to be guessing on parts.
We're going to take a break. The phone number to reach us, 866-594-4150. You're listening to the Under the Hood Show, brought to you by Sturtevant's.
Find out how you can participate in the show by visiting underthehoodshow.com.
Welcome back to the Under the Hood Show. The phone number to reach us, 866-594-4150. And if you join us on Facebook, if you like the Facebook page and join the Hoodie fan club at underthehoodshow.com, you could win a hoodie.
Like Jared Simpson, who listens to us in Kalamazoo, Michigan on WKZO. Congratulations from all of us here Under the Hood and our friends over at UTI, Universal Technical Institute. If you're thinking about a career, if maybe you're not thinking about a career, maybe it's time you need a career change. You're mechanically inclined or you think you got a good aptitude for that kind of stuff. Universal Technical Institute has set up campuses across the country with financial aid. They've got GI Bill assistance available. They are working with the manufacturers so they can pass on the stuff that they know through UTI to you to make sure you're an A-plus tech. Universal Technical Institute. Thanks, everybody out there listening from UTI right now.
UTI.edu. I'm trying to get my daughter to look at that.
Are you?
Yeah, and
What are you pushing towards?
She'd be good with the car electronics and stuff.
Well, and
lightweight work.
She wasn't really interested until I talked about the campuses and the places they were. We talked about your daughter going down to Arizona.
Was Orlando one of the?
One of them.
Did you push that way to think maybe you'd visit?
She's gonna be a welder.
I don't think she wants. I don't think that's a selling point for her. Us visiting.
You weren't thinking of her when you were
collision repair.
No, I actually.
The way you drive cars, she should be a.
No, I was looking at tuitions. So I was really. I looked at Universal Technical and went, "What about this one compared to these three that you're considering?" So
you could probably go to UTI 5 times for what the other ones are going to cost.
866-594-4150. Let's talk to Bob. You're on the End of the Hood Show. What can we do for you, Bob?
I'd like to say I enjoy your show.
Thanks.
And I just thought I'd tell you how I fixed the gas tank on my pickup.
Okay.
There are methods.
Yeah, it had a leak under the strap. And so with wire and the come-along, I held the tank up, and I parked it on a slope so that it stopped leaking. And then I took the strap off and cleaned it up good around the hole and used JB Weld. And I fixed it.
We have definitely seen that done. There's many methods of people will try. Most of the time, it's hard for people to have the patience to get the fuel completely away and wait from the repair area for the complete curing process. And there's many of those sealers that once the gas hit it, it just turns to goo. But
I tried it once on a gas tank. It said do not use on a fuel tank repair. So I tried it on a completely dry, brand new tank. I had a brand new old stock tank for a marine application, never had fuel in it. I sanded it to prep it, just wanted to make sure it had a grip. I put JB Weld on it. It sat for about a month before I finally had time to put it together. It sat submerged in fuel for 6-7 weeks, and it kind of melted around it, and it just off it went. So
we've taken some vehicles apart and have seen some self-repairs that people have done that have at least gotten them by. So apparently you've gotten one to that point.
We have seen, you've seen that done to the point where you don't even want to share the picture because it's so...
There's like, whoa, who tried this?
Yeah, every once in a while we'll share one that is kind of funny or
Brazing
unique.
rod on here? What the... No!
Bob, thanks very much for the call. 866-594-4150.
Jennifer got a hold of us. She's watching out there on one of the media sites right now and said, there's a question. So if you let your engine run out of oil, we know what's going to happen to it.
Out of oil, not good. No lubrication, problem.
Done. Problem. Too much oil? Problem. A little too much oil, not that big a deal usually. Get to a certain point, and it's going to start going past the rings. It could leak. It could fill up your catalytic converter with a little too much oil and ruin your catalytic converter. But in the worst case. So Russ used to work for a dealership years ago, back when the dinosaurs were out there and we just milked them for the fossil fuels and run them in our car. This lady came in and she said, don't want to be discriminating. I could say a guy came in too, but anyways, it was a lady came in and she had bought a brand new car because her last one had run out of oil and she wanted to specifically know, what she should do with the care. And I remember listening to the salesperson who now I know for a fact doesn't work there anymore, but he said, you got to keep it full. Well, where does the oil go in? And he opened the hood and he put his finger on the oil cap and he was kind of condescending and he says, it goes in right here. Okay. She came back 4 days later and she was really upset. Her car was towed in and it wouldn't run anymore. And she said, you told me my car would keep running if I kept it full of oil. She did keep it full of oil. She got home, took the cap off, and didn't see any oil. So she put a quart of oil in. She drove it a little bit, Took the cap off again. Still didn't see any oil in there. So what do you do? When you have a cap that you take off and you think something's full, you fill it. Well, she poured oil in until it was full. And I had to stand there with a straight face as they had the car in the service bay with oil everywhere under the hood when she said, well, I filled it all the way up and now it's doing this. Does this engine leaks? I thought, you just filled the engine completely full. How many quarts does it take to fill a 4-cylinder
What was
engine
that
block?
answer? Do you know?
I don't know. She said she put a lot of oil in it, whatever a lot is. I was just trying to keep from laughing because I didn't want anybody to kill me.
Just recently.
But all we did was we drained it out and we put the correct amount of oil in the engine. We steam cleaned the whole thing. We started it and ran it, and it ran fine. But after about 3 months, it came back, and we had to put a rear main seal in it because it was leaking because of the pressure buildup inside of there.
Oh, sure.
One of our vehicle recovery specialists, Mark, he was doing his pre-trip inspection on our Kenworth truck. You know, we're talking $100,000 slide back trucks. Just recently been serviced at a professional Kenworth repair facility. And I happened to be down there, and he came into the office, and he had the dipstick in his hand, and he's like, does this look right? And I didn't know where the mark was on it. I go, looks like it's a little full. And he says, a little? And he goes, how much extra do you think's in there? I go, and without even thinking about it, I said a quart. And I'm like, they both looked at me. Jay was in there and Mark, and they're like, no. Just think about how much oil that system takes.
If it was like a half inch over the full mark, it should be about 2 gallons too full.
It was he drove back down there. It was 2 gallons too full. Something had malfunctioned in their filling mechanism.
Oof.
And, you know, that's what I hope it was.
It happens to all of us. We don't work on our company trucks that are that size anymore because we just don't have the room in our shop, and we've added another hoist. But at the time, we didn't have a hoist in that spot, so we were able to back one in real carefully and just barely. And those were our shorter trucks we used to have. Well, I started filling it up with oil, and I got distracted. After I had changed it, I left the oil plug out of the bottom. So I started putting oil on it. The phone rang, and I went over and got the phone, came back, and I went, oh, where was that? Oh, let's start over again. I started putting oil in, and I'm checking the dipstick, and it's like, oh, it's not, no, it's still good. Phone rang, and I started talking to a customer, and I started putting more in. By the time I knew it, and Jake's laughing his butt off right now at the shop, I had like 8 gallons of oil in it that were on the floor.
That's not good. But so in this case, they were very apologetic, and they had overfilled it by 2 gallons.
Yikes.
This just happened. So the moral of the story, truly, checking your oil has kind of became out of fade for people because
you don't need to.
You typically don't burn oil like it used to.
Right.
But in this case, this is a diesel-powered engine with a turbocharger, extra oil in there for not a good thing. So this was like a day, and we got it all taken care of. But make sure you check. And I think the biggest problem they had at the shop was that the technician had not checked the stick after he was done, because he would have saw that it was overfilled. It was substantially overfilled. You might not notice a half a quart in a big system like that, but you'll notice 2 gallons.
866-594-4150. Let's go to Ohio and talk to Alex. You're on the Under the Hood Show. What can we do for you, Alex?
Hey guys, been listening to the podcast for a long time now. I'm probably one of the advanced hoodies. I have a buggy I built with a 6-liter LS I put in. I got a little turbo I'm putting in my Ranger right now. So yeah, I build engines and all that stuff. But when it comes to, that's fun stuff. So I have a lot of patience for that. But when it comes to diagnosing normal cars, not a lot of patience. I have a 2008 Ford Focus, and so when it's warming up, basically RPM will almost want to stall when it goes into closed loop. And if I unplug the MAP sensor, it won't do it. But I replaced the MAP sensor. I bought like a Hitachi brand one. It actually showed up, and the serial numbers were all scratched out. It was probably the OEM one. And I replaced it. It still does it. So I don't really know where to go from there. Should I try another MAP sensor or what?
It could be bad. It could be a bad sensor. It could be if you picked up the part on Amazon. You don't have to tell us yes or no.
Yeah.
But anyways, if you did, I have seen some parts come across from Amazon that are not real. And there are some manufacturers' websites, including some of our partners' websites, that show you how to determine whether it's their part or a fake. And it is common practice so if a manufacturer has a part and it's built for a certain company, they may scratch off those numbers and send it to you. So it's not represented as the other one, but it's still a legitimate part. But you want to know if it's real. If it's a fake one, it could be causing all of your problems. So I would determine that first. I would Google that about how to determine if that's a real part or not. And you always know you're getting a genuine part if you're working with one of our partners, whoever they may be. But if you're getting it off of Amazon, you don't know. Great place for saving sometimes, but it's also can be kind of tricky. But I would bet, from what you're describing, it sounds like it could be that sensor might, if it's, whether it's genuine or fake, it could still work, but it may just be a bad part.
And I know from searching on Amazon for other stuff that it will tell you the manufacturer, the headline, the top of it will say what it can be used in. And then if you go down to the description, it talks about who actually made the part. But if you search for, Apple charger, it'll say company Apple on the top. But that's just to let you know it's compatible, not made by Apple.
Right.
Alex, I got a question for you. It's burning me up.
Yeah.
All right, so you've got a buggy you've made, a dune buggy with a 6-liter. You said you're putting a turbo in your Ranger?
Yes.
Is that a Ranger
Absolutely.
pickup or a side-by-side?
Yeah, just a Ford Ranger. It's I got a little 4.8 I put together for it. It's gonna have a 75 millimeter turbo. I'm putting a Explorer rear axle together right now for a short end.
Okay.
Some little drag radials, just little fun stuff.
Okay, so we're keep going with this. You've got a need for speed and you're a creator. What's going on with the Focus? Yeah. That doesn't line up.
Just, I pick up a car here and there. If I see one for sale real cheap, I'll buy it. It's something, and it's a decent little car. Whatever, sold to a friend that made.
You should get license plates on it.
Cut it up. Cut the Focus up. Use the body panels. Put them on the dune buggy. I saw them do that on a show they used a new model, like a '99 2000 VW Beetle, and they took the shell off and they put it on like a Polaris Ranger type thing. It'll look cool. Put the Focus on.
He needs to get personalized license plates on the Focus that say Buzzkill.
Alex, thanks very much for the call. I love the fact that like he said, he'll do that. He'll take out an engine, put a new, but he doesn't want to deal with the daily driver.
We've got a neighbor of ours that works on stuff all the time, pretty much a motorhead, but he drives around in those little Ford Festivas and Fiestas, the older ones. It just beats around with them.
We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you. 866-594-4150. You're listening to the Under the Hood Show.
Get your planner out right now and schedule your next radio appointment with the Motor Medics.
Welcome back to the Under the Hood Show. The phone number to reach us, 866-594-4150. Let's talk to Wally in North Carolina. Wally, you're on the Under the Hood Show. What can we do for you?
Thanks for taking my call. I've got a 2008 Equinox. It's 3.4 V6, automatic transmission. Long story short, she blew a head gasket around 152,000 miles, and nobody wanted to touch her because of the high mileage. Now, she sat in the yard for about 3 years till I found enough courage to replace the head gaskets. And the heads were sent off to a shop. They were new valve stem seals installed. They were pressure leak tested, so that they're good. And I've driven the motor about 3,000 miles, and I'm having a problem when I'm filling the tank up. When I get back in to crank it or start the motor, in the on position and the crank position, the starter continues to turn, even when it's in the on position. I have to turn it to the off position and back to the on position to get the engine to start. And it only does it when you change fuel in it, and that's the only problem I'm having with it. Now, I can fill the tank up with the motor running, but then the choke smoke comes out the back of it. You got any ideas?
No, I don't.
This thing.
Oh man, y'all were my last hope.
Oh, no, that's me.
Since Russ gone out of business. Who do I go to?
This is like Shark Tank right now. I'm out.
Yeah. For that reason,
Russ is still in.
We got to go a different way.
Mr. Wonderful, what do you got?
Forget the key thing. I forget the key thing. So what we're looking at.
So you got to tell a story.
Yeah, no.
Take it out
I'm
back
going
and
to
shoot it.
address the problem with the fuel and this choke thing you're talking about first. If you're filling it with fuel and it's
right
loading up, I think that you've got some of the vacuum lines mixed up on the engine here. I think you've got
since the engine has been out of this and it's been taken apart or not.
Well, the head's off. Even I think you're pulling directly on that vacuum line from the tank, so you're sucking either lots of fumes or actual raw fuel into the intake as you're filling this thing. It's going out through the vent, pulling it right in through that EVAP system. You got to have a check engine light, right?
Yes, and it is showing a massive EVAP leak.
Yeah.
It's massive? Is that one of the codes?
Okay, so it is large.
I know. I didn't know if massive was one.
It
is.
So running from the tank, you've got a line that comes up for a vent. It comes to a little green. It's a Schrader valve, like a tire valve. It's got a green cap on it. Might be gone now, but it's a valve. That goes to what's called a purge valve on the engine. It bolts on that backside. Bolts onto one side of the purge valve. The other side goes into the vacuum. Either that valve is stuck wide open or it's on backwards, so it's pulling, because it'll pull one way and not the other even when it's off. So it could be backwards. I think that could be a problem. If it was just a large leak, but where you weren't getting that fuel problem with the smell and the overloading, I would say that maybe the system is just venting the air and there's a leak. But I think you're pulling straight through that. So I would address that first.
What about this Christine issue where it's wanting to
starting
run on its
thing,
own?
I've seen a few of them with broken ignition switches. You put the key in and you just start turning it, and all of a sudden it starts cranking, and you wiggle it around, and it'll shut off. So it could have a bad switch. That could be a problem.
But the thing about it, it's only when I put fuel in it. I mean, every other time you crank it up, it cranks up fine. It's just when you take that gas cap off and put fuel in it, she's got a mind of her own.
Well, I had a family member one time, and I had a second remote for their remote start, and every time they would like grab the door handle or touch the car, I would hit the start button on it and keep it in my pocket.
Oh, you're mean.
And
That's
it would start up, and they'd go, my car, every time I touch the door handle,
mean.
the remote it starts. Like, I don't know why it would do that. And when they found out I was doing it, they were mad.
So
how many Thanksgivings were you banned from?
Well, it was my wife, so.
If a person is
still not going to Thanksgiving.
If it was the only common factor about the fuel tank is that you're shutting the car off when you're filling with fuel. I can't see how there be any tie-in between the fuel system and that electrical craziness of the vehicle, continuing to run the starter.
How's it run otherwise? Does the engine run good now that you've reworked it?
Oh yeah, it drives well. Now it doesn't want to, when it's in overdrive, it does not want to upshift or downshift going up a hill. You have to give it a little bit more gas where it will eventually downshift from out of overdrive. But other than that, she's doing fine. Keeping temperature, gets 23 miles to the gallon, so it's doing well.
Good luck with her. You got some digging to do. Thanks for the call. That was awesome.
Yeah, it was. I don't know if we're going to solve that one without some diagnostic equipment. And if this was Shark Tank, I think Mr. Wonderful said, take it out back and shoot it.
Wally, thanks very much for the call. 866-594-4150. Let's talk to Wyatt in South Carolina. You're on the Under the Hood Show. What can we do for you, Wyatt?
Yeah, so my Honda, the Shadow VT E1100, it won't turn. What's wrong with it? It can't turn.
The front steering tree will not turn?
Yeah.
Well, there's only so many things. They have a steering lock on most motorcycles when your key is, in the remove position on a lot of them, so it'll lock it for theft. I can only think that there's either something going wrong with that system, the locking system, or you've got a major bearing failure in the stem of the frame.
Yeah, if you ever get one that's getting a little stiff, so if you turn one way or lean a little bit and it's stiff to one side and then stiff to the other and it kind of binds in between, you got to get that tree apart and inspect it and find out what's going on with the bearings, because they can start to bind up and get in a really bad situation. I've had them sometimes where you're making a corner and they don't want to turn back real well, and they've got to be taken apart.
Because that frame is raked at a certain angle, and that those bearings they've got to be really good, because otherwise it will bind up if you start getting one that is going bad.
That's how it recenters going down the road.
That is very concerning.
And if you were looking at it, if you had it in the shop, or it should be easy to figure out, right?
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, it'll be right there.
We're gonna lift it up on a stand. We're gonna turn the steering back and forth and see if there's any bind. If we feel anything going on there, it's coming apart. It's funny we say this. We don't do it every day, but we've done it hundreds and hundreds of times on stuff that we own of our own. But we'd take it apart, inspect it, see what's going on. It gets to a certain point when you get a certain age on it, it's supposed to come apart anyways and be inspected and checked.
If it has any aftermarket fairings or cowling or anything like that, inspect that really close to make sure there's not something that's got a bracket hanging loose or something that is catching. You got to look for an external obstruction, and if you don't see one, yeah, you got to figure that out. That's a problem.
Wyatt, thanks very much for the call. 866-594-4150. That's the number to reach us. We talked a little earlier this hour about Suzuki's and the models of Suzuki's. The car,
right?
The Swift, which was the Geo Metro, that was the one I was familiar with. The Vitara, SX4, Samurai, XL7, Kazashi.
That's the one I was trying to say that I didn't dare take a shot at.
Grand Vitara, Esteem, Aereo, Equator, Sidekick, X90, Verona, and the Reno. That was from 1993, I think, is where I searched for. Some of those are new.
A lot of those are dead now.
That'll do it for another hour of the Under the Hood Show. Until next time, you can always find us at underthehoodshow.com. The Under the Hood Show is brought to you by Sturtevant's. And if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, this is the extended version. This is like the 12-inch dance mix of the Under the Hood Show.
12-inch dance
mix? Didn't you ever get the long mix of the singles?
He didn't work at the nightclub and he wasn't a DJ. So.
Yeah, I suppose. You're not...
the 12-inch...
Vinyl, yeah. This is like that. This is like the Jelly Bean
I wasn't
Bonitas.
tracking. I thought you were measuring something wrong.
Man, am I going deep on the 1980s DJ references. Let's talk to Byron in Iowa. Byron, you're on the Under the Hood Show. What can we do for you?
Hey, guys. Thanks for taking my call. I have a 1975 Camaro that I restored a few years ago, and it's got a Saginaw steering box on it, and I had an oil leak on it, so I did a complete kit in it to redo the gearbox, and I've had a few times that when I'm steering, if I'm turning left, it's fine. When I turn right, it won't turn all the way to the right, and I have a few times that it'll turn partially and it'll momentarily lock. And I'm not sure what's going on in there, if there's any other adjustment for that, or if I've got one of them little balls hanging up in there, or if it's a pump problem. Just curious what your thoughts are on that.
Most likely not a pump problem, because the pump itself should be delivering consistent pressure.
Right. That's what I would think.
And if you have the steering gear is a worm gear inside there, and you've got the balls that are controlling the pressure for left and right, I think you got something not quite right when you put it back together. I can't be specific about it, but it's almost got to be inside that gear, Russ, doesn't it?
I think so, and I wouldn't take any chances with it. I would probably swap that box out. And what I'd be doing if I had a 75 Camaro, I'd be swapping the box out for the faster gear ratio box, because there's more than one box available for that car that fits it. And you can get one. So the one you have now, you're
one off a Trans Am or something.
You're going like 3 turns to the right, center, 3 turns to the left, center. Well, you can get a different box. It's 2 turns to the right, 2 turns to the left. So it has quicker steering, make it much more fun to drive around, give it a little heavier feel. So when you're going down the highway, it feels more like a new Camaro, like a 2015 Camaro instead of a 75. It doesn't float as much, and it's just a little stiffer steering. So you could, do a little research on which box to use for that.
Okay. Would the new boxes clear the header?
Well, this would be the same size box. It would still be a 70s box, but it would be a different gear
from a
ratio
Z28
inside.
or a Camaro
Yeah.
or a Trans Am or something,
Gotcha.
that sort of a thing.
Gotcha.
And you could probably go on
Sure.
to Car Dash Part, one of our partners, even though that's getting back a few years, you still can find some of that type of stuff on Car Dash Part and have something that you probably find for a pretty affordable price. Now, Russ, is there anything that could do with air in the lines that could make it act like that?
Yeah, if you've got air in there, you're going to hear it though. It's going to give that.
You'd have some cavitation noise.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't make any noise, but when you unhook the steering connecting rod there, that thing spins free. It doesn't hook if you're unless you get the car's running and there's pressure on it. That's when it gives problem.
And that could be too. So you might want to disconnect the steering rod from it and turn the steering wheel with the engine running. And if it binds up like that, you definitely got a steering box problem. Because it can bind with the engine running, whereas with it off, it'll still turn pretty free because there's no rod on it. But we've had them bind just when they're running that way.
More to this story? Is this 74 Camaro something that got a big, huge motor in it, or is it a restore? What is it?
It's got a built 355 in it. I put 373 gears in it, and it's still got an automatic transmission. I did convert it to a 700 R4, so I have overdrive. So it's a fun car to drive.
Is it a car that's been in your life for a while, or is it a recent acquisition?
I bought it about 4 years ago. It took me a couple years to restore it.
Cool. No, I didn't know. Sometimes you get a car like this. Somebody's got their old high school car. They're trying to bring back to life. There's always a good story if you ask. Usually.
It's been a while since we talked about it. So I'm gonna mention our partner BerkeleyClassics.com, because if you've got classics like I have classics, Shannon has classics, Chris had one, but he got rid of it. But anyways, he's got a newer sports car. But they're the ones that we use for our collector car insurance, because I drive mine.
I'm actually insured through Berkeley right now.
That is awesome. Well, then I don't need to tell you anymore, because I'm getting ready to pay my renewal. It's coming up.
This last Sunday, I had a wild hair. I knew the weather was getting better. I wanted to ride my snowmobile.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't go on any of the big trips that I was hoping for. I went on one of them. And so I said to my wife, I'm driving up to the ice races by Lake Madison. It's on Long Lake. And it's about 50 miles. And she says, okay.
You rode the snowmobile?
Knock yourself out.
On the snowmobile you went?
Yeah.
Okay.
I saw the pictures. I didn't know that our trail went that far.
Yeah, well, you had to be a little creative when you get close. But I drove up there and I took in the ice races up at Long Lake. My friend Micah Schliemann and some others, Paul LeBon and such, are putting that on. They had a great show. I had not been at the ice races since I quit ice racing on my ATV in 1995. I just kind of walked away and hadn't been back. And so it was fun to catch up with people. But one of the things I saw when I was there...
You haven't changed a bit, Shannon. I mean, your hair, everything. You look so
I
great.
had a hat on.
You haven't gained any weight?
The weight thing I haven't. But the hair thing is a total myth. But when I got there, I saw some good old friends that I hadn't seen for a long time. Brian Amundsen, Grant Peterson. And these guys are majorly into vintage snowmobiles. And so they were there watching the races, cruising around in their vintage sleds, old Yamahas. I mean, they had some cool stuff. And I was reminding them about Berkeley Classics, because Berkeley does the vintage sleds, the tractors, but so cool. I mean, they look like backbreakers because there's just no suspension. And
Have you seen what they're doing with those?
Oh,
now?
yeah. But I mean, I drove up a 165 horsepower, full suspension trail sled that's made to go quick and handle the bumps. And I looked at what I got off of and what they were sitting on. I'm like, boy, you talk about an evolution.
Right.
That's an evolution.
So if you haven't seen them yet and you're not maybe you're a sled guy or not, but they are taking, we saw this we went to the Snowcross, the Amsoil Snowcross this last weekend here as well, Saturday night. And I don't know why, as so cold as we were there, how could you get on that sled the next day and do that? But I suppose motivation. But they're taking these old Skidoos, like from the 60s and 70s. They take the body off, gut some things out, and they're putting them on these new sled chassis. So like on Shannon's 160 horsepower machine, they're putting that body on, and like we're doing retro with cars, where we take a new modern powertrain with fuel injection. They're putting them on these sleds, and they're having contests to see who can come up with the coolest one. So somebody's cruising around the old Skidoo, and they've got a extended track under it. It's pretty wild.
Did Byron? We totally hijacked your call. I hope you enjoyed the conversation at least. So,
I did.
Did
we get you where you needed to be?
Yeah, I think so. I like the idea of finding a gearbox that has a different gear ratio in it because, with the transmission and stuff that I have in it, it would be nice to have a little quicker steering in it.
Yep.
Go to Car Dash Part, and when you do the search, it's going to ask you some of those questions. And when it asks about whether it's a Z28 or whatever, just say yes. And then you can search for that other box, and it is going to be. They never change the subframe. They all bolt onto the same subframe. They've all got the same size physical box, and
but make sure it's a different part number than the stock one, because sometimes things cheat along the way.
Well, and you got to watch too. I think there was a certain year range, like in '78, where they started going to metric fittings versus standard fittings, so that your lines will hook up. So just make sure I'd stay with a little bit older one. There was a '75 Trans Am. It had a quicker gearbox on it.
Byron, thanks very much for the call. All right, that'll do it for the extended remix of the Under the Hood Show. Thanks for watching us on Facebook and YouTube, and tell your friends and share it and like it and do all the things, right?
Yeah, share this clip because, Facebook, they hold some of that back. So share it with people.
Let's break their algorithms.
Yeah, let's break Facebook.
They're listening right now and say, turn the dial down on them, guys.
I mean, it's a good thing, but